Welcome back to the Owner Seat Podcast. Today we're going after the line item every owner argues about and almost nobody can defend. At least that's what I like to say. The marketing spend. And here's the problem. Most operators in fitness and wellness cannot tell you what a member actually costs them to acquire. They can tell you what the lead costs, and they're not the same number. The gap between them is where the money goes. So today I brought in someone who has sat on both sides of the argument and who now has to answer for the whole P&L instead of just the top of funnel. Jessica Yarmey, you've seen her everywhere on LinkedIn, is the president of Squeeze Massage. She's also the founder and CEO of Sizzle Society and the host, one of my favorite podcasts, the Society Pod. I hope she doesn't critique me too bad today. And she's based in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Her run is one of the most complete ones in the industry. Listen to this. More than 25 years across Gold's Gym, Burger King, and Club Pilates. She was the director of franchise marketing at Gold's Gym, advising domestic franchisees representing 230 gyms and global franchisees across 28 countries. What a brand. From there, she went to Youfit Health Clubs as director of brand marketing and creative, running a $16 million marketing budget, that's massive, across 115 locations. Then the powerhouse, we all know about this brand, Club Pilates, where she was the chief marketing officer, the CMO, for 3 years during its rise to the largest Pilates, and still is, the largest Pilates franchise in the world, and where she also advised the other 7 brands under the Exponential Fitness umbrella, the public entity XPOF. In the middle of, yes, the pandemic, as we were closing gyms, she went on and said, you know what? Let's just go start one. Kick House, a kickboxing concept staffed by women. Her stated logic was my favorite, Warren Buffett line about being greedy when others are fearful. She took it from 0 to roughly 30 locations and sold it to Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in 2022, then stayed on and ran it in 2023. Now, the part I actually want to talk about, although that's super impressive, is in November of 25, the wellness holding company Go Saga, founded by Jeff Schneider, acquired Squeeze Massage, and Jessica was named president. Built by the Dry Bar founders, you all know them, Allie and Michael, with Brittany Driscoll or another familiar name as a co-founder and CEO launching the flagship. A strong brand, beautiful spaces, you got to check them out, and an app that people and members actually like. And here's what Schneider said publicly about the deal. They bought it at a heavy discount. Can't wait to talk to Jessica about that. The branding and the user experience were incredibly strong, and the business functionality of it was fairly weak at the time. So a career CMO just took over a company where the brand was the asset and the business was the problem. Jess, I'm so excited. Welcome to the Owner Seat Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for the lengthy introduction. Every now and then I need to be reminded that I'm worthy. So I appreciate you.
Stop it. By the way, okay, so I'm always following your posts, and you are killing it in the gym. I don't know what's going on or what you're doing. I need to get on your level. I'm like, how does she have so much energy? She's working out like 9 times a day. I love all your posts. You're killing. It's amazing. What is going on? What did you decide to do?
The workout routine is 1 time a day. It starts at 6, goes till 7:30, and it's High Rocks prep. I signed up for High Rocks Dallas in November. Yeah. You're close enough to drive and come up and support. So, you could always jump in, and there's still tickets left. But yeah, that's the current mission. And I love getting the AM workout in because if I leave it to the evening, it falls off and I don't get it done. So if I'm going in the morning every day, it happens, and I'm committed to a good schedule.
Good for you. So you hit it in the morning, a little High Rocks. Yeah, I might make my way up from Houston. I saw you're also going to the Dallas meetups. I'm so jealous. Those are always so much fun.
And I know there's one coming up in August. So you should put it on your calendar. Yeah.
Yeah. How exciting. Yeah. So for those listening,
I might miss that one. I might skip that one just because I like profits.
You're for profit. I'm not going to that one. That's hilarious. All right. So I want to talk about, I was kind of mentioning it at the top there, CMO who's in the P&L now. And I mentioned Jeff, right? So he said publicly that at Squeeze, the branding and the user experience, and I know you love talking about this, you're very passionate about it. That's where you guys are incredibly strong. And The business functionality is where he found as the sale or acquisition occurred was where it was fairly weak. And so you've spent your entire career, as we were chatting about it earlier, building the first thing, which is that user experience and branding. And so when you think about the gap, right, what did that teach you about what marketing could actually fix, but what it can't do, what it can't fix?
So in my mind, if I have solid four-wall operations, I can do anything. Marketing can do anything. And so looking at the Squeeze brand, which is a beautifully built brand, so intentionally built, and solid four-wall operations, I know I can fix the third piece of the puzzle, which is the funnel and the sales process that kind of comes into that environment. So we really spent a lot of time over the last 9 months that we've owned the business, like digging into not the four-wall experience, because there was nothing wrong with the guest experience when they walked in the door. Really where the gap was all of the visibility around what is our lead volume, what is our first timer appointment volume, what is our booking rate, what is our conversion rate, everything that you would expect to see coming down a funnel. They really kind of had a blind eye to it. And some of that is maybe cultural to the massage and wellness space, much different than the fitness industry, which is very dialed in with a strong visibility into your funnel, almost an over focus on funnel. But so we knew, having managed funnels and built funnels before, that we could like build a funnel that would make sense and then optimize that funnel to drive more revenue through the shops. So that's really the process that we've been undertaking over the last 9 months. And we've made some big moves, and I'm really proud of the team for all the work that they've done to date.
So it's awesome. I love this because this is a big pivot for you, right? You have a ton of experience. I mean, multi-brand CMO, massive brands. I mean, you've been killing it throughout your career. And now you're putting a president hat on where it's multifunction. I'm hearing sales, I'm hearing marketing, I'm hearing operations. So I'm excited because this is going to inspire a lot of those people that are listening in, wanting to find different career paths. I think, especially this new generation, they like variety. Right? They want to
For sure.
They want variety. So what did that first 90, well, maybe walk us through first, and then I want to get into your first 90 days, but how did you land this? Walk us through your story. Like, how did this come about?
So after I exited Kick House, I started consulting on the marketing side, built a marketing agency, started my podcast. And one of the clients I was consulting with at my marketing agency was Go Saga, who ended up buying the Squeeze brand with me. So some of the conversations around where you find opportunities is like you have to be out there networking with people. In this instance, it happened to be someone I was actively working with or consulting with, and that's how I heard about the deal that was getting done. But as soon as I did hear that the deal was getting done, I knew the Squeeze brand. I had actually consulted with the Squeeze brand as well, so I had a familiarity with some of their blind spots. And so I just said to Jeff, whenever you buy this brand, if it's locked in, let me know. I want to interview to run it for you. And he said, no need to interview. Let's just build it. And that's how it happened. So we've been partnered on it really for over 2 years now. The acquisition took a long time. But that leads into your question about the first 100 days, because my first 100 days immediately went to execution, not to planning. We were in planning mode in parallel with the acquisition. So we knew the problems. We had the due diligence. We were talking with the owners. So there was a lot of work that was able to get done before the paperwork was even dry, which was great. So it really set us up to have an amazing, like, fast start. And month one, we plus 10%ed. And so to be able to like plus 10% right out of the gate to the owners is like, okay, like we're serious. We're not just talking about the things we're going to do. Immediate. So you only can get to that with like the due diligence done up front and kind of taking the bet that like the acquisition is going to go through. And as you know, a lot of times they do fall apart at the 1 yard line. But we just had a belief that we were going to be able to get it done. And we knew that there were some fast moves that we needed to make. So we just got hyper organized on like what those fast moves were going to be, so that truly day one, we were executing, we were not strategizing.
It's awesome. And I know you've consulted for Squeeze in the past, but once the takeover occurred, right, and everything was official, what did you do on the marketing side? I'm curious, as you had, I mean, you obviously had the president's lens, but you know, the marketing's right there, right? That's kind of like you've been your baby for so many years. What were some of the things that surprised you as you lift up the hood, as you were looking at the marketing spend? What was working, what wasn't, and what have you all done since?
Well, day one, we paused everything marketing wise except for web development and automations and building more automations.
Ah.
So some of what I philosophically believe as a marketer is you cannot put marketing dollars toward a funnel that kind of has a leaky bottom, or a leak out somewhere in the funnel.
Yeah.
And feel good about the dollars that are being spent. So the historical spend of PR agency and, national media, we took all of that out, which, to your point, like my marketer heart hurts, but I also know it's not a good use of dollars, and I wouldn't be a good steward of the brand fund if I continued to let dollars just go toward things that were driving impressions, but maybe like getting people into a funnel, but then we had no visibility into the funnel or no reporting through the funnel. And so we had to shore up those aspects of the business before we could like really truly lean in again on the marketing side. And we're just now getting to that point. So it did take us a bit of time to kind of get everything to a place where we felt good about pouring dollars in and knowing what to expect from those dollars coming back out.
Yeah, it's good. And I love how you went through that interrogative process, the due diligence. And I'm curious, right? Because there's a lot of owners listening to this and they're wanting to assess their marketing department, whether that be internal or some type of third-party agency, or maybe even both, right? Doing different functions. What are some of the questions that you asked as you were looking at Squeeze during that diligence, 2-year period? And what questions should owners be asking about their situation when it comes to marketing?
From a marketing perspective, you want to know what's working and to what extent it's working. And so any feeling about what's working, any like objectivity versus subjectivity, like you kind of want to really get into, let's look at it as a math equation. Especially when you're in this kind of situation, which was an acquisition where we needed to make fast changes. There were revenue needs at the shop level. You have to get to a place where it's dollars in versus dollars out. And so show me the money, show me where the dollars are going in and show me where the dollars are coming back out. And I think a lot of times we do focus on vanity metrics. We focus on big numbers. We focus on maybe impressions or engagement numbers or follower count. Follower count is a common one these days. But just because you have followers on Instagram, it doesn't mean that you're able to use that channel to drive revenue for your locations. So you really have to get into the weeds with like, what is your cost per lead? What is your cost per new first-time guest? What's your cost per acquisition? And if you can't get to those, you really need to kind of call the time out on your marketing function and just say, like, what are we actually doing here? Because it's more of the fun department then, it's more of maybe a social media department or it's more of a creative department. And you need to bring in someone who can be that performance marketer for you to kind of balance out what might be happening on the brand level that's still needed, but it shouldn't take a majority of your budget. A majority of your budget should be going toward performance marketing kind of things.
Okay. So this is why I wanted you on the show. This is amazing. And we let's go through that again. And I've never heard it said that way. Performance marketing. I mean, you are the CMO and you're just dropping it right now, which I love it. This is awesome because what you're saying, and you mentioned the vanity metrics, impressions, reach, engagement. I swear that's all I hear all the time. I'm like, wait a second, but what is this turning into? How are we tracking it? How do you see what it leads to as far as, in our case, members or customers or clients or what have you? But you're talking about cost per lead, customer acquisition costs. Can you walk through that list again? Because I think everyone listening needs to write that down and probably go back to their marketing team and look at their financials and say, here's the answer to these questions or these metrics.
Yeah, I always looked at cost per lead. And then the number that you brought up as you were introducing me at Club Pilates, if you're multi-unit, you have to have a average leads per month per location, just because that's going to give you generally, like, what are you pushing to your shops or your studios or your gyms, whatever kind of concept you're running, like how much volume is coming through to those locations on a monthly basis. because then you want to get to like, what's your count of first time bookings? So what's your booking rate? Booking rate sometimes can be an indicator of like poor lead volume. It could also be an indicator of poor lead conversion. So like you get into like quality versus quantity kind of conversations when you're in your numbers like this, but then you want to get to your conversion rate, and then you want to get to your total new member kind of count per month. But all of those are things that you should be looking at, not just monthly, but like your team should kind of have the daily finger on the pulse. Right. And I'll just give you a little like cheat code in terms of planning and strategizing. The numbers that I'm in almost more than anything are my Google Analytics, looking back at the prior year, same time period, to kind of plan and see like, am I pacing ahead of seasonality or am I behind seasonality?
Interesting. Yeah.
And then I also really think that web volume is a leading indicator of lead volume. So like once you kind of have your finger on the pulse of your lead volume, your leads per location, your cost per lead, the next level is to try to get web impressions up, because that's going to get your lead volume traffic up. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Okay.
I'm in there daily. As a president, I'm in there daily just because to me it shows
conversion of web traffic to actual like lead coming in.
Yes, but also no, because we bring leads into multiple environments. So we bring leads directly into our website, but we also bring leads directly into Go High Level as a like texting platform. So there's multiple entry points. So it's not always clean to look at it like that. Okay. And I do think sometimes we get lost in too much information. And so I really want, especially at my kind of level of role, if you have a performance marketer on your team, by all means, let them get lost in the weeds. But if you as like a marketing team of one, or you as a brand leader, like pick 5 things and watch them like a hawk, because even within those 5, you're going to be able to see like what's happening in my business. Am I trending up? Am I trending down? Should I be worried about this weekend? Is this weekend going to be amazing? You kind of need to know those kind of things, because then you can run last minute kind of plays to save a weekend, to save a month, and you can really kind of get your business on a dial. And that's really what you want to get to, is like, if I need this month to be 50K more, here's what I do from a marketing perspective to hit that number.
I've always wondered, right? And this is the finance guy talking here, right? So for instance, I have benchmarks and ratios that I use on the balance sheet, right? Like one recently, I was talking to a bank the other day, and it's the DSCR, right? Your debt service coverage ratio. Well, I know if it's under 1, not great. If it's over 1, great. We have enough cash or liquid cash or assets to cover the debt on hand. And I've always wondered, like, how do you benchmark? How have you done it when it comes to like cost per lead or customer acquisition costs? Like I'm thinking of the industry, like Pilates right now is super hot, but is very saturated. So I can only imagine it's a little bit more expensive to get someone to join your studio, your franchise system. How do you know how to benchmark? Are you doing what you mentioned? Like you're just benchmarking to your previous year, or are you trying to get competitive analysis?
I'm really benchmarking against the rest of my system. And so at Club Pilates, it was great because I had a system of 600. And so you really can like dig into your numbers a little bit and you can see, is this shop above average? Is the shop below average? But generally, like it was interesting actually, like having the period of time where I was consulting with a lot of different brands, because I was in different spaces also, and kind of had the current day, cost per lead. Here's where we should be. It is different in the massage space. So, I kind of have had to adjust what my benchmarks are that I'm looking for, but I do still look at it across the rest of my system to say like, okay, where are we as a brand? And then once you kind of know your brand level numbers, then you could look at those at the shop level and say, okay, this shop has a higher cost per lead than usual. Why? And you start to like dig into it and almost be prescriptive about how to change things so that they maybe can get to a more competitive cost per lead. And or like some locations are just always going to have a higher cost per lead. One example would be Colorado is always more expensive, for whatever reason. If it's the hippie culture, they like their local brands. very difficult to get to a competitive digital cost per lead in Colorado. And so then you need to just realize we're going to have a higher cost per lead. So then we have to have our booking rates be on point. Like we need to make up that ground in solid booking rates, in solid show rates, and in solid conversion rates. And so it just becomes a model. And while you do have your brand level model, each shop or each location is going to have its own mix within those numbers. And you can be successful even with one of your numbers being very far off. You know, you could have a shop that has terrible conversion. I would think like a very competitive market, a New York City, you know, or something that maybe is a little bit more travel centric. You're going to have bad conversion. So can you make up for that with solid volume through? And you can. You can make your model work in a lot of different ways. And that's part of, you know, kind of digging into multi-unit brands, is because you do start to see different segments in like, okay, here's our suburb kind of model. Here's our urban kind of model. Here's our college town kind of model. Here's our destination model. And they all are different, but they all function similarly. And your team needs to be able to manipulate the numbers in any of those scenarios.
So about a year or two due diligence, right? You're planning, you're setting vision and all of that. And then you all take over. You mentioned, I mean, this is a great case study. You pause marketing. It's like, look, we got to look deeper because there's leakage. So as you pause marketing, what specifically did you see down the funnel? Was, you know, quality lead? Was it appointments book? Was it shows? Was it conversion? Like, what did you see that you saw was a major issue that you went and attacked first?
Well, I saw this at Squeeze, but I've seen it at other fitness concepts as well. And I think it's just worth calling out. These businesses are not the field of dreams. It is not like, if I build it, people will come. It is not, if I open the doors and run great classes, people will join. It is a business. And whatever modality we're talking about, if we're talking massage, if we're talking yoga, if we're talking hit high rocks workouts like we were earlier, any of that, even if it's on trend Pilates, you still need a process for booking people in. You still need a process for making sure people show up. You still need a process for converting those people who do show up. You still need a process for re-engaging those who don't show. All of it is it's a process, and it's not magic. Like, it is something that you need to dig into and build so that your business can be successful. And so I think, you know, I see this with Squeeze, and I see it with a lot of other brands, especially when it's an amazing brand and it's an amazing experience. And I think a lot of times founders, my work is done. I built a great brand. I built a great four-wall experience. It will just come together. And it doesn't come together. You know, and I think maybe in some locations it does. Maybe in your proof of concept location it does. But what you need to be able to dig into is, like, when you open and it's not coming together, like, what processes are you falling back on that help you ensure that it actually can be a successful location? And I do believe any location can be a successful location if it's operated correctly and you have those processes in place. But too often those processes fall last on the list, and we'd rather post on Instagram because we love our followers than follow our processes that are going to drive our businesses forward. And so that's, like, critically important to all the founders out there. Like, you need to get your business on a dial. You need to get your business supported by sales and marketing processes. They are processes. It's dollars in, results out. And if you don't have those processes backing up your business, it will not magically grow, no matter how many influencers you have coming in the door.
I'm curious on your thoughts now in this role, right? You're the master at brand and creative and the digital experience, as well as the physical member user experience. And you're talking about processes, and what I'm hearing is people. So what have you seen? Like, what have you done? And was there any challenges that you needed to overcome in this new role to get people to not only execute those processes, but make sure this customer journey, whether it was digital or in person, was protecting the brand? How did you?
So you're making an interesting assumption. And I think it's an important call out, because my people aren't fully baked as salespeople. We have a very sales averse culture, attribute it to similar to like a yoga environment where someone should just feel called to come back into our studio. And, massage is the same way. Like they left feeling so good. So like they should just want to come back.
Well, yeah.
And so I don't have full buy-in yet on a more aggressive sales process. But so I think as owners or as founders or as marketers, you need to look at your board and you need to say, what do I have? And in this instance, I know I have the ability to build strong automations. I now know I have like lists that I can segment appropriately, and I can start to like chip away at that from a culture perspective. So much of marketing now is about strong automations that then push to people when they need to. So we do have people that can support our marketing and sales process, and we have people who support our customer service process. There's more work that I need to do in that regard to like fully get my people culturally ready to like be more sales centric. But when you realize, just go through your SWOT analysis. Like, what do I have? What's my strength? What's my weakness? Play to your strength always. And in my instance, my strength is my ability to build it and have it run in the background without even having to get owner, full owner buy-in. I could push automations down to every shop and I can say, edit them if you want. But generally, I've given you a starting place. They will run on their own. And then I know that I'm at least doing, I'm pushing from my side to ensure that there's some level of outreach going out to new leads, to missed sales, to people who no-showed. There's all those things like baked in the background. Yeah. And so I think that's the biggest thing happening in marketing right now is just like, how are your automations set up? How's your cadence? And then where do people come into the mix? So
yeah, it's great, man. That's awesome. I want to talk about channels, and I was really excited to talk to you about this one. If you think about your days with Club Pilates and when that all occurred, and then you compare it to today, how has the evolution of where you're spending your marketing dollars gone? Like where are you finding the biggest bang for your buck? And if you can give us and those that are listening and watching some advice, stop doing X and start pumping more dollars. What are those?
Definitely dollars need to be allocated toward building or moving to a CRM that can fully support your needs as an organization. I think there's a lot of point of sales and tools that say they are full capability CRM, and they're really not. Like, do you have the ability to mass text? That's the number one thing you want to be able to do as a business owner, because we're recording this on the 30th. I know right now how far I am from my month-end goal. And so when you hit midway through the month and you see you're on pace or you're off pace, let's say you're off pace, what do you do? And I think, there's definitely like planning that needs to be in marketing, and you want to have a calendar, but the greatest marketers have these plays that they could pull out when it is last minute and you're not seeing what you want to see, and you need to be able to like turn something on. And having a strong CRM, strong automations, you can turn something on immediately. And so like that's the number one thing in terms of like a channel, like the outbound outreach or like being able to fast answer inbound inquiry via text is huge right now. And actually, when I started at Club Pilates, we didn't text at all. So that's definitely been a big change over the last 5 to 6 years. In terms of the other channels, I think a lot of them are the same, but they're maybe evolving with how we're using them. And the biggest example right now is probably Google, with like, you want to be on pay-per-click, you want to be bidding on your keywords, but then you also need to realize and acknowledge how AI search is impacting your Google search. And you kind of need to be also in like their performance max layers. So Google really used to be kind of an isolated two-headed monster of like organic search, paid search. And now it's organic search, AI search, paid search, performance max. And you kind of need to have those all working together. And I think to this day, I think a lot of vendors are still working through how does it best fit together without cannibalizing, and where's the best dollar spend, and, being able to get a really clean view. of what's happening on Google because it's moving and changing so fast.
You're making me want to do a lot of homework now because I need to go through each one of those layers. I'm like, Performance Max, never heard of that before. And now I'm upset with myself that I don't know because I should be on this. So, but I'm glad you shared. And for those listening, go do your homework as well. I talk to a lot of franchisees. And one topic that's like without fail that typically comes up is brand fund. I'll bring a brand fund because I'll look at obviously look at the tech fee, I'll look at the brand fund, I'll look at the royalty fees. And it's just always the tension point of HQ just does their HQ thing. We have no say. There's nothing local. We can't do anything special for our community. What I love about what you've been posting on LinkedIn, it sounds like you're not only focusing on the enterprise level, the HQ support, but you're also providing these localized tools or localized campaigns. Can you walk throughout your experience, what has been the best practice when it comes to a franchisor actually leaning into we need more local boots on the ground type of campaigns? Can you walk us through that?
That's such a good question. And the best answer starts with trust. I do show my brand fund spend every month, and I try to get as granular as possible. When something does come out, I try to share the dollars that were attached to it so that franchisees feel like they do have a say in what dollars are spent where. So I try to be very, very open and transparent with what dollars are being spent, just to make sure there's not that the accusations, or if you start to have that kind of culture of just questioning everything. If you have a franchisee base that's questioning everything, then you as the franchisor are not communicating well enough what's going on or what's happening with that fund. But then secondarily, with the local spend, I really feel like owners are happy when they can run their businesses as part of this bigger brand. And so I know there's a lot of brands out there that are locking pieces down. You can only use this one vendor. All creative needs to be approved through corporate, like very, locked down across the board.
Sure.
And I really try to take a guardrails kind of approach where I might put an approved vendor kind of program together where you have 6 vendors to choose from. Mm-hmm. So like you're within the guardrails, but you still have room to like be your own owner, run your own play. If you feel like you're being under supported by one vendor, great, jump to a different vendor, and then all the vendors can they hold themselves accountable almost because they know they're being compared to each other. But then the magic of any franchise that's brick and mortar happens at the local level. And so anything that I do nationally is just going to be icing on the top, but it's not going to be the full cake. The full cake is like baked at the local level. And so you need to give your owners as many tools as possible to execute things at the local level, whether it's digital ad spend or whether it's events or whether it's, some kind of partnership that they want to execute. You have to have a team that can really be in the weeds one-on-one with all of the owners in your system and support them when they want to try to pull something off. You don't really want to get into a culture of no. You want to get into a culture of like, let's work together so that it could be as successful as possible. We had an owner at Club Pilates that wanted to do some sort of barbecue tasting event here in Texas. And at a glance, you're looking at it and you're like, this is the dumbest thing ever. There's no brand alignment. It doesn't overlap, They executed it and it ended up bringing in a ton of leads for them. And so you really don't know always what's going to hit. And sometimes things that are a little bit outside of the lines actually work really well because it's like you're in an unexpected place and you can catch eyeballs better as opposed to being at a health and wellness event. You're expected as a Pilates place to be there. So I think you have to have guardrails and you have to be ready to occasionally like color outside the lines with your owners and use it as an opportunity to test something brand new. So where you have owners who are trying to experiment on things, it's not always a bad thing, especially if they will step inside a box, they will kind of like follow some rules and run it the way that you want to run it and use QR codes so that you could track performance, all of those things.
Yeah.
You might be surprised with some of the results that you get from local things. And then it's a playbook you could run at other locations. So I'm super passionate about trying to like empower owners locally to run what they know or they believe will work in their market. And then let's work together to actually track it and see.
Yeah. So speaking of QR codes, and you've mentioned a lot about automation and AI, and I saw a recent post. I think you were using ChatGPT, and you were curious on, if you pretty much research yourself or search for yourself, what was it going to say about you? And I think you mentioned it wasn't necessarily about the accuracy; it was the sources, right? Because nowadays, whether it's on Claude or Chat, it'll tell you where the sources are, and if you click on that, it's very interesting to see where it's picking you up from, right? So, can
Yeah.
you walk us through that observation, and how is that changing
Yeah.
the landscape of what we should all be thinking about?
So some of the reason why I LinkedIn so much and I have my own website and all this stuff is like my Google search for my name, and my name's unique, which is great, and so I could Google search myself. It would stack from the top. It'd be LinkedIn, my personal website, maybe Medium, my Instagram, two other things, and then it would start to get into other things other people say about me. I
Wow.
owned my whole first page. Me, just all the things that I want you to know about me, I'm controlling it. And so in marketing speak, that's my owned channels. So my
Mhm.
owned channels fully dominated my page one. Now, if I AI search myself, you go into earned media. So if you divide marketing into paid, earned, and owned, my owned, the pages that I controlled used to dominate. And now what dominates is earned. So podcast I was on, who the host does a great job of SEO, and he does a great job of putting pages into things like IMDb. He built an IMDb page for our episode.
Wow.
And that shows up on my page one, and it syncs everything else that I've built on my own. And so as brands, we need to be aware, yes, we need to spend a lot of time on the pages that we own, and we need to push content to those always, like the blog content that used to be the way you would rank in SEO. Your owned pages aren't what's like populating in your AI search. In my instance, it pulled a lot of earned content and it put it above my owned content. So do your own search on your own brand and see what shows up for you. If you're lucky, it is still your owned content that's showing up first, because that just keeps control with you. But you'll notice, especially if you like scroll, there's other things that are popping up, and like, what are those other sources? And can we make sure that we pump content to those via PR, via appearances, via podcasts, via, all of those kind of things that you kind of work together with other partners on, because it's not necessarily your channels that you control that are telling your story. So your story needs to show up consistently, not just on your channels, but now pull it across to other pages.
I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to call all my friends tonight. I'm going to tell them to post about me. I need their love. They owe me. They owe me a ton. So, wow, that's so interesting. By the way, have not heard of the IMB. Isn't that where the movies go and the TV shows? You're like, look, I always look up
Correct.
movies and
Yes.
actresses and actors.
I am an actress now.
Wow.
He does an amazing job of having like page summaries on a lot of different things, even Reddit. Reddit is
Yeah, I hear
not
a
a
lot about
channel
that. Yeah.
that anyone would be playing in on a regular basis, but he pushes his episode summaries or his, transcripts out to Reddit, and then Reddit starts to bump things up. So it's interesting when you're out there, especially in the podcast world, you can learn a lot. It's a good test environment to push your pod and then see how it could be used to then push your business.
Well, I know what I'm doing all weekend. This is going to be some fun homework to do and some tasting. So I'm going to ask you straight up. So AI, I want to keep going down this route. You know it best. And it's funny, I'll see marketing job posts out there and I'm curious. I'm like, can AI replace that one yet? And I do this for like a ton of different departments, but in your eyes, in your opinion, what do you think? What are some of the marketing roles that you think that you just don't need that anymore? What do you think is going to be non-existent in the next 12 months?
Look at it like that. I look at it as how much more efficient can my current team be by using AI? And
You see it
so
as just a productivity tool.
Right. So we use tools like Canva, which has really pulled a lot of AI capabilities
Yeah.
in. We do have like a language learning model that will spit content or copy for us. So maybe copywriting becomes a little bit easier. Reporting certainly becomes a little bit easier, but there still needs to be the human in the loop. Like there still does need to be the human to execute on it. It's interesting. I was asked earlier by a different publication about what makes a brand memorable. And like in today's AI time where you could spin up a brand in a heartbeat before a brand even exists, before your product even exists, you can make it look like it's a thing. And really what makes brands memorable and what makes brands stand the test of time is by having a perspective about themselves that's above and beyond things like logo, tone, look and feel in photos. Like there's all of those details need to like come together in a consistent way with the same perspective. And a lot of what you see come out of AI is and like it's you would really have to be like a very good curator and almost like a digital creator that's AI first and prompt the heck out of it to get like the correct consistency for building a brand well via AI. You know, I think people can tell when things are AI created and they are lacking a little bit of soul and they're lacking some attention to detail. The REI bike ad, that is the most recent example that I can think of where, you know, AI added handlebars to both sides of the bike. And your core audience is going to notice that in a split second. I didn't notice it when I looked at the image. I was like, that's interesting. What's wrong with that? Because I'm not a bike person, but the core person you're trying to reach just saw you as a fraud. And so how is it worth that level of risk to your brand? And so I think there still does need to be a person. And I know you're very like forward on the AI pieces. I still write everything. Like I still really have my hands in everything. I still run a lot of my numbers. Yes.
That's
So I think it's just like you need to figure out what's going to work best for you and for your team, knowing that these tools will help everything move faster, but you still need to have self-awareness of like, how do you best work, and don't force it if it's not there, because people can tell when it's forced.
Sure. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time with like Anthropic's Claude Design, right? And just seeing some of the work that it can do. For instance, Lovable is a great brand when you think about how you can vibe code or prompt a website. And granted, you have to be still pretty good at knowing how to, not necessarily code, but the design aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I think about how all the money spent on web development, website design. I don't know how much further that part of the industry goes when you can just do it very quickly on a Lovable or Claude Design.
If you're talking about a single page, sure. The problem with performance websites is there's always something in the background that's a whole lot more complicated than it looks. And so I agree with you. One of my team members, Sam, she's amazing at using AI to build different things to write copy and like all those things. And so we were talking yesterday about a new page that we want to launch, and it's like a secret menu. And I was kind of just telling her what I envision it to be. And 30 minutes later, she sent me like a draft of it. And I'm like, great, looks good. How the heck did you do that? Go team, you know? So it's there. But then it's like the devil's in the details of like, okay, so that's the front of the page. So the front of the page, easy breezy. How does it tie together with everything else that it needs to tie to? And I think that's where we're going to see developers really start to divide themselves almost between design developers versus like integration developers. And I think the integration developers still very much are important, especially for the fitness industry, which is notorious for Frankensteining different platforms together and trying to make it all fit. So the back end of any website, let alone like a legacy brand, you know, is a mess. And so I would never trust AI to unravel the back end, but I think the front end and the look of it, you know, so take those kind of pieces and add speed to those pieces, and then make sure you're just really strategic and intentional with the back end of it. Cause it's AI will tell you, Claude will tell you, yes, we can integrate with this point of sale system. Oh, but did you remember that your texting platform is different than your point of sale? So you need to also integrate in two directions. And AI is just good. I just don't trust that AI would be able to navigate that for me.
Very interesting. Well, I want to talk about building and selling. And I have a couple more questions for you, but I haven't even chatted about Kickhouse. So Kickhouse, right? You took it from 0 to 30. And this is as we're getting through the pandemic period, and you ended up building and then selling it to Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in 2022, right? So how the heck do you do that? I mean, you're the expert at brand and story, but it also takes a level of unit economics, obviously financial performance. Walk us through how you made it investable.
You know what's so interesting about making something investable is to make it investable to a franchisee, you have to build a brand with heart and it has to have good unit economics. To make it sellable to private equity or, to someone else, it really is all about unit economics. And I think in those kind of transactions, what you'll hear, either from founders or from franchisees who have stayed in is like the transition happens and the brand lost its heart because everything that you built up front to make it investable as a brand to a franchisee no longer is central to the story as it trades hands, because it really does get kind of reduced down to unit economics. And then maybe the next person kind of has a different perspective on the brand or on the culture. And so it's so interesting because everything that you need to get somebody invested in your brand, including Squeeze, is telling a story about the brand itself and why the brand is going to be something that they're going to love to build in for the next 10 years of their lives. And it's about, can they see themselves as owners in the brand? And then that's what gets you to unit count. That's what gets you to sold, not open. And of course, buyers, investors love solds, not opens. The solds, not opens came from the love of the brand.
Yeah.
And it falls apart often. And I think if you're looking at an acquisition, and we are looking for acquisitions at GoSaga, as we look to bring in a new brand, it's like, how do you bring it so that the culture is still there, so that the brand is still there, so that the pieces that people love stay in place and you keep the unit economics or grow the unit economics. But it has to all still fit together as a story.
That's great. Well, you mentioned GoSaga. So GoSaga bought Squeeze, as we were mentioning up top. And really the big vision is kicking off selling franchises again. And you've made a significant amount of improvements. And I love you chatting about just right now what you're working through and how you're spending time with the team and all of that. Can you walk us through what is the plan? Where are you all looking? If you can share those details, right? How is that all going?
We just refiled our FDD as of a few weeks ago. And so we will start to franchise again. We do have some primary states that we're looking to prioritize. Texas is one of them. Florida is one of them. Excellent. New Jersey, New York. So we're cherry picking the country at this point, but I'm optimistic that we're going to have the same demand for the brand that the original owners had, just because the brand is such a relatable brand that really connects with people really quickly.
I love it. So good. Well, I'm excited. I hope you all are looking Northwest Houston. So there's beautiful, spaces there, something I can go to. That'd be amazing. Please come down here.
I will tag you in that post whenever we're ready to go to Texas.
Love it. Awesome. All right. Last question. Right. So I love it. You checked me one time on LinkedIn because you know me. Sometimes I have a wild mouth and I like to talk about conferences and how I hate them. Yet sometimes I sneak in and show up. I decided I'm going to jump back in because I want to see you at them. You're always at the great ones. Where are you at for the rest of the year? What conferences are you going to?
I am going to no conferences for the rest of the year. I know.
I'm not doing it.
I know.
This is why I hate them because Jessica doesn't go.
You could feel free to call me out now, but I need to focus on franchise growth for Squeeze. I need to make sure I'm kind of still executing on some of the operational changes that we're making. And so I want to be sensitive to just prioritizing what needs to get done with Squeeze as like the biggest brand in the Go Saga portfolio,
Yeah.
knowing that, our big goal is to add additional brands to Go Saga. Our big goal is to add additional locations to Squeeze. And I think if you spread yourself too thin, you sometimes lose your ability to execute. So as of right now, I'm not spread across any conferences or conventions. But if that changes, I will let you know.
For sure. That sounds good. Yes, please let me know. So good. Well, I appreciate your time. You dropped a ton of gems, a lot of best practices. Thank you. And I have some homework to go do for some of the things that you mentioned. I have a lot of work to do this weekend, but I really appreciate
and
your
I'll
time.
say for anyone who's listening, I'm clearly passionate about this, and I could look at something very quickly and tell you what's wrong with what is going on in your marketing world. And so if you want to hit me up on LinkedIn, send me a question or a problem. I will be painfully direct with what's going on in your business just to try to help you kind of right the ship. I don't want marketing to be the problem. I want marketing to be the solution.
That's awesome. I love that. So definitely reach out to Jess on LinkedIn. And then as far as for those that are listening that are potentially thinking about, being a franchisee of Squeeze, how can they learn more about that?
You could certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's my primary social media platform, but then you could also visit squeezemassage.com.
Excellent. You know what I'm so pumped up about is you come from the marketing world. You were talking about unit economics. And so I got to put my plug in. We talked a little finance, right? For those fitness and wellness and longevity owners and operators, franchisors, franchisees who want that CFO level clarity, financial model and capital raise prep. We talked private equity today, unit economics. You can connect with me as well on LinkedIn or at Stratego. This has been another episode of the Owner Seat Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Albert Ramos. And if this is your first time tuning in, all episodes drop every Monday and Friday. I'm trying to beat Jessica. I'm trying to beat her podcast. It's tough to do, but every Monday and Friday at 8 a.m. Central. So excited. Jess, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun.
Alrighty. I'll see you soon.